You're closer.
All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Monday night, 7 p.m. here where we are. We're just going to wait just a minute till we start seeing some comments pop up on here. Make sure that everybody is here. And there we go. Start to see some people coming into the webinar.
Everyone say hi. Tell us where you're from.
Yep.
Jennifer, Ohio.
Nice.
Right.
So Jennifer from Ohio, how hot was it there today?
Today was wonderful, but this is the first workshop where we haven't had super bad storms. So the first workshop we had like tornadoes, and then the second one was thundering and lightning. And so today it was beautiful weather. I was able to like open up the barn doors and train, and I don't know how warm it was. Not warm. Like I still taught in a long sleeve shirt.
Oh, nice. For us, the past couple of days been like 97, 96. I mean, we're already near 100, and someone said it was May. So
it is May.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I know we're struggling. We're struggling keeping up with the days of the week.
Someone from Nebraska, someone from Cincinnati. I hear that's in Ohio.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see.
83 in Alabama.
Ooh, Carroll in Connecticut. Hello. 83 in Alabama, that's not bad. Hot in Indiana. Okay. Washington State, Kentucky. Another one in Ohio. It's horribly freezing here and the wind won't stop. That's in Massachusetts. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Somebody was posting in our group about what do we do
for
the
wind? Aloha State. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. I think we're ready to get going here.
All right. Well, yeah, I think we're doing pretty good here. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started then. So welcome everyone to the third video in our 4-part workshop called Creating Your Success in Agility. And whether you're brand new to the sport or you're a longtime competitor, if you want to get better at dog agility, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Esteban. Thank you for joining us. And here on my left, possibly your right, is the lovely Sarah Fernandez-Lopez. Joining us from Ohio, as we've already established in the chit chat, is Jennifer Crank.
Good evening.
And we are the voices you hear on the podcast. We're also instructors at our online training academy, where we help people with their agility issues. And this workshop, as I think I already mentioned, does have 4 videos. So this is video number 3. Overall, we're taking you through a path. We want to create a path for you that's going to take you from where you are right now to where you want to be in agility. But before we get into today's content, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
Yeah. And those of you who have been on the first 2 videos, y'all know the drill. We have a toy prize package giveaway that we will choose at random somebody who shares this video on Facebook. So this is for our people watching on Facebook. If you share and then comment, I shared. And I will pick at random one of those people and you will get a toy prize package. There's a Squigglet and a Tug It. So this is like you can put the food in it, but also tug. And then this is like just tug. So two of our favorite tug toys there. Our dogs, they are approved by all of our dogs. They like those toys. So we'll be doing that. And yeah. And now Jennifer, take it away. What are we talking about today?
All right. Well, first off, if you guys missed one, possibly even both of the first 2 videos in this workshop series, we do encourage you to go check those out so you can go back and watch the replay of those. However, today's training will still make sense. And we're going to do a little bit to kind of catch you up on some of the most important points. So in workshop number 1, we took time to figure out how to set agility goals using the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. So this was new to a lot of people, new to us as well. So for those of you that missed that webinar, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 stands for 5 years, 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, and 1 hour. So those 1 hour and those 2-day goals are great at getting you some quick wins that you can build on. Gives you something to get you going and get started right off the bat. We also talked about how important it is to know your why when you have a particular goal. So keeping your why in mind helps you when things get tough. And that's important because they will get tough. So knowing the why any particular goal is important for you, and it may be different from person to person. So then in workshop number 2, we talked about all the problems that are holding you back. What are your agility holes? So we went from goals, to holes. We discussed the value of correctly identifying your problems in order to know what holes you need to fix. Some problems keep you from qualifying, some add to the stress as a handler, or some even steal the joy and excitement that you experience from the sport.
Yeah, the feedback from everyone has been really amazing. So thank you to everyone for taking the time out, not just to join us, but a lot of you have been leaving comments, right, on the page. That's been very helpful. And then we kind of see what you all are taking from the video series, right? Today, we're going to talk about how we break down problems and build up solutions.
That's right. So we have 3 different areas that we're going to discuss today. And the first one here, I'm going to share my screen. We are going to look at the opening. Oh, wrong. There we go. We're going to look at the opening from one of the rounds at the recent AKC National Agility Championship. So this is the standard round. And what we're going to look at here, and I'm going to be looking down at my iPad, so you can just look at the screen. We're going to be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this was the opening of the standard round. So right now, what I want you to do in the comments is to let me know, how would you handle this? What would be your preferred handling, especially basically for 2, 3, 4, 5? How would you like to handle that part of the course? This was interesting to watch because I saw a variety of problems pop up, and in the theme of looking for the problem behind the problem, there were a couple of different reasons why some of these problems were happening. So let's see. Somebody says dog on right. We'll just wait just a minute for some of those to come in, and I'll go ahead and tell you some of my thoughts while the comments catch up here. But I think as we go from 2 to 3 to 4, right, the issue here is we need to get the dogs to 4 without losing them to the off-course tunnel. And then the off-course tunnel, actually, we kind of have 2 off-course tunnel possibilities here. So it's kind of like a double tunnel trap. And let's see, we've got some answers here. So dog on left, rear cross between 3 and 4. So that is one great option here. Get the dog headed to 4, rear cross to create the turn 4 to 5. And then what else do we have here? Esteban. Oh, lots of rear crosses. Okay, dog on left. Yep, rear cross, rear cross. So front cross. So as the dog comes over here, handler front crosses to get this turn. Lead out is definitely going to help with a lot of these maneuvers.
I'm wondering if anyone did a blind cross. If you did a blind cross, just type in blind cross there. Oh,
yeah. Here's somebody said they would like the blind between 3 to 4. So, as the dog's heading to 3, we come up, we blind, the dog comes behind and gets this turn. And these are basically the options that I saw at AKC Nationals, right? Front cross, blind cross, rear cross, and basically a lead out, right? So kind of leading out all the way to the to here 3. This is how Jennifer handled it. So if you've got that nice strong start line, you can lead out all the way to there and essentially kind of call your dog over 1, 2, 3, and then turn and go for the 4 to 5. So now what I want to hear in the comments is, no matter which way you would pick, right? What are you scared of when you see this sequence, right? What are you worried about? What kind of puts butterflies in your tummy about how you're thinking about handling this? And I think that this is a place where we can definitely see the problem behind the problem, because I'll tell you, the people with no lead out, right, are more nervous about this opening than the people with a solid lead out. Because this is the beginning of the course, people with a solid lead out, they can make sure that they get up here. If they want to do the front or the blind, they can get up here and have good timing on their front cross, have good timing on their blind cross. But people without a start line stay, they're going to either try to race their dog and force in that front, force in that blind, or they're going to have to default to the rear. And not everybody is comfortable with that handling option. So the rear cross at number 4, oh, that's Jennifer. So it would scare me for fear of pushing my dog.
I could get her.
I know, off the jump and into the tunnel. Exactly. So let's take a look at the issues that might happen and then talk about why they would happen. Okay. So when we look at the dog going and going straight into the tunnel, the vast majority of time, exactly, the vast majority of time this happens is because handlers are late at number 3. The dog is coming over 2 to 3, and the handler races up to make the front cross. And when you race up like this, what does it look like you want to the dog? It absolutely looks like you want the tunnel. So if you do not have good timing on your front, and by good timing, I mean you need to have started your front, or you needed to be almost done with your blind before the dog even takes off for 3. Otherwise, all that motion from your front cross and all that motion from your blind cross is telling the dog, as they're coming over 2, as they're coming over 3, they're like 100% sure you want the tunnel. That's what it looks like. And then by the time you give them the information, then it's too late. You have effectively pushed them straight into the tunnel. Now let's look at the rear cross. I think a lot of people would be nervous about the rear cross in general because you lose like direct control of your dog, right? You have to have like a well-trained rear. You are not physically blocking your dog. The one of the advantages of that front cross or that blind cross is it puts your body between the dog and the off-course jump. And if you can get there, it makes it a lot less likely they're going to take it. With the rear, you have to depend on the fact that your lack of motion is going to take this out of the picture. Then you have to depend on their commitment to number 4, because some dogs, you might get them headed to 4, but then as you try to put pressure on the line for the rear cross, they push right off. They don't actually commit to number 4.
And that is exactly what I was expressing as my concern and why I did not choose that option, because that's my fear as well.
Right, exactly. So for those of you who are who don't have a start line, right? The problem behind the problem is the start. You would have a lot more options if you trained the start line, right? For those of you who are, just don't have the experience to have the timing down, right? Or maybe you're not even sure what the timing should be, or you don't have enough experience watching your dog and knowing where you can get to and where you can't, then you may think that you're going to get there and you can't, and then you end up pushing them into the tunnel, or you end up hurting your rear cross, because rear cross is not like just the thing you do if you can't front. Because if you truly wanted to rear cross, you need to have some deceleration at number 3 to create this turn here. You can't charge up here, decide you're not going to make it, and then suddenly throw in the rear cross. It's not going to be a very good rear cross, or it's not going to work. And then for those of you who your dog is going to push off the rear, your dog likely needs more experience with the rear cross. We want to have that. We want to have the ability to do all of these options here. And they need to be able to accept that pressure. And so the more rear crosses you do in practice, the more that the dog gets experience and knows, I've told the dog what to do, which is to take number 4. Now I can put pressure, and they know that that means that's giving them information for what they do after the jump. So the next thing that I wanted to show you here is, here it is kind of set up here. And this is our young dog. I love sequences like this because this sequence was complex enough and had subtle challenges in it such that it caught people at AKC Nationals, right? These are very experienced dog and handler teams running this course, and this trap caught some of them. But it is also simple enough that you can do it with, with the dogs that are just entering the sport. So here we have our young golden retriever here, who has not yet debuted in novice, but she can run this sequence. And the key is, can you get the information out in time? And one of the tips that I want to give you is, when you look at video and, we think that you should video everything, and this is how you're going to know whether your timing was good or not, right? So when you look at the video, you want to look at where the dog thinks they're going, like as they're coming into the jump, and especially as they're over the jump. right? And so you can see that as my dog is over the jump, I've actually already completed this cross. My shoulders are faced this way, and it should be very clear to my dog that it's not the tunnel, right? If I just showed you this one screen capture, would you think the dog would race into the tunnel? Probably not. But for a lot of people, they're as the dog is over, they're still running this way. They still look like this as their dog is over the bar. And that's when you're going to get those dogs just ducking right into the tunnel. So the timing is really important. And then also the position is really important here. So you can see that, you know, I'm coming in kind of parallel to the dog, but moving along this line between these two jumps. So I'm not going this way and then cutting back this way. Okay, blue doesn't show up very well. I'm not going in super deep and cutting out. I'm kind of paralleling and then going along this line. So timing and position. And then the last thing that I wanted to show is this is an overlay between the front cross and the rear cross, right? And what I wanted to show you is look how different that the handler looks. You know, I've got two ghost images here of the handler. But look how the dog is like a single dog. That's because she took the exact same path on the front cross that she did on the rear cross. And that's because in both cases, I gave her good information about where she's going. For the rear cross, you can see that I wasn't as far ahead. I don't want to race the dog because I need to give the dog an opportunity to catch up and get ahead of me. So I'm not going to start as far ahead. And then I'm going to kind of run a little bit slower coming into black, create this turn. But with the front, I need to be further out ahead to get to that good position and timing to let her know where she's going before takeoff. So in both cases, you can see the dog knows exactly where they're going before takeoff and makes the same turn no matter which maneuver that I'm using here. And so this is one thing that we really like to do with these small space sequences is we like to look at various handling options because we want people to have options. We want people to be able to choose what works best for them. We don't want people trying to force in a front cross in a spot that's going to push their dog off course because they feel like the front is the only option available to them. They can't depend on the rear cross. So we always want to kind of keep balance in the skills, and we do that by trying multiple skills in the situation. And then one other tip that I wanted to give you for like a sequence like this is that then this one's kind of blurry because it's one on top of the other. So let me go back to this one. In addition to doing like the front cross and the blind cross and the rear cross, we will also actually put our dog into the tunnel. Because you know what? This course wasn't jump, jump, tunnel, but the next course might be. And so if you're ever wondering, well, maybe my dog is just patterned, right? I did the front cross and then maybe they got the rear because they're patterned. A great tip for getting out of that patterning stage is to use contrast training. So have your dog actually go into the tunnel and then the next time ask them for the rear cross, right? And then even do things like coming up and doing a wrap back here. So you can get a lot of extra work out of all of your sequencing when you add in contrast training, and it actually adds like this extra layer of understanding for your dog. So I think that I hit all. Let me check my notes. I think I hit all of the points that I wanted to take there. But yeah, it's again, we're looking at this idea of the problem behind the problem. The problem may not be your front cross. The problem may be your start line. This is how we approach that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's pretty cool, especially because I think in recent years, people have been very much about being ahead of your dog, right? Kind of like staying ahead of your dog, and blind crosses have become a lot more popular. Rear crosses have become much less popular. So I feel like there's a generation of agility handlers who are coming in and they're like, you know, what's a rear cross? Why do I need it? It's kind of like a last resort, right? But there are so many situations that are really good for the rear cross and very good for specific teams out there, right? If you're a handler that is not as quick as your dog, right? I mean, you're going to be doing some rear crosses, you know, if you're not as mobile as perhaps, some of your classmates or instructors, you're going to have to handle it a little bit differently.
Actually, there's one other thing that I wanted to point out on this sequence, because I think it's a really interesting sequence. And that is that the other contrast that I would do is the other end of the tunnel here. Because a lot of handlers will struggle to get this into the tunnel because of the presence of this jump. So again, it's a very tricky kind of little sequence here, that this jump here prevents handlers from like over pulling to get this end of the tunnel because the jump is there. So just a really cool little sequence there. Kudos to the judge.
Yeah, I like it. It's a pretty good opening. Next, we're going to take a look at how proofing can fix a lot of issues that handlers think are related to handling, right? So a lot of people think they have handling problems. Maybe. I want to focus in on some specific obstacles that are underproofed, in my opinion, when we look at the entire agility community, right? Underproofed, they cause a lot of faults, even when the obstacle is performed correctly and legally. And I'm talking about the contacts, all of them, and the weave poles. All right. Now, a lot of dogs can perform these obstacles correctly and often will, but they rely on the physical position and motion of the handler. What does that mean? It means, I know a lot of you out there are like me when I started, and your dog will hit it almost 100% of the time if you slow down right there at the bottom. Maybe say a magical word that's been taught to you, like place or touch. Target, if you've ever heard people screaming at their dog, target, as they frantically point at the ground at the bottom of the A-frame, right? That's what's going on there. They're relying on position and motion, or in this case, the lack of motion or the slowing down of motion, the deceleration, to help the dog get the contact. And you know, I got to say, a lot of times it works, right? That's why people do it. But if the handler is too far behind or too far ahead, right, the dog is much more likely to fault on those obstacles. And so handlers, over time, they end up basically being very close and always in the same position, right? And so judges are very clever. They're clever people. I know sometimes we don't think so, but they actually are. They're very aware of this weakness, and they're going to punish you, right, by having traps and challenges that are really not that difficult, as long as you can be there to do them. But if you've fallen very far behind, right, if you can't get to where you need to go in order to manage those traps, because you're babysitting your contacts, because you're babysitting the weave poles, so your dog doesn't pop out at pole number 10, right, you are at a disadvantage. All right. So now I think Sarah's going to queue up a video for us. We're going to take a look at this video. This is a video of our VIP members proofing their dogs on these obstacles. And we ran a proofing challenge, and we do this every year for our VIPers. We have some exciting upcoming stuff where we're going to turn proofing into a game for the handlers themselves, you know, because people need reinforcement too. But I want you to see and understand the kind of level that you and your dog can reach with proofing. The umbrella, that's a really tough one.
Yeah, that is
my
a
border
tough
collie
one.
was like, no. Noises, sounds.
That's a food bowl too.
Yeah.
That's not just a sound. That's a food bowl sound.
This is a combo. You got the umbrella and a guy, and he's got facial hair. I love this one. Start line issues, proofing these stays. Got the food bowls all around. It's a golden retriever, so those food bowls are a big deal. This one I love. Toy-driven dog.
I love all the helpers too. We got to see a lot of helpers that aren't the agility half of the team, but they came out to help.
Yeah, these are great. I think once people started seeing other people submit these videos, right, they started really getting into it. And I think at first when people saw it, they were like, can my dog really do that? But then they were able to build up the skill. And then once their dog did it, and the dog figured out that it was a game. Right. And the dog was like, wait a second, we're doing that thing, right? There was just this level of understanding that a lot of these dogs had never had before. And then the handlers were like, my dog is so much better at this, right? It's not like it was people who never made mistakes with these issues, right?
Right.
And so they got really, really good results.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about proofing is that I think a lot of people they proof the things that they're likely to see. So they might proof, running past. They might proof, a judge type person standing there. But that's kind of where they stop. And I think that you can be as creative as you want, because I think every issue that your dog works through increases their own confidence in the skill and increases their generalization. So for those of you who don't have the ability maybe to go to lots of different fields and do all these different weave pulls, right? And you feel a little bit stuck because maybe your dog is struggling with weave pulls, they do great at your yard. By kind of going to that next level of proofing, you can kind of help their overall generalization. You're going to add a lot of controlled stress to the situation that they can work through. And then when you go to a trial where there isn't all of this craziness, but there is a new set of weave pulls that they've never seen, then they're more likely to be able to do it. And so we have a proofing checklist that if you're on the PDF, if you're getting the PDF worksheets for this, you'll get the proofing checklist. It's like 3 pages of proofing ideas. But you can really do anything that you want to do. You should think visual distractions, handler distractions, so more or less motion, sound distractions, reinforcement distractions. And I think that then this we talked about in video 2, and Jennifer was talking about like how many times people think that they messed up the handling after a contact, but it was really because they immediately after the contact fell behind their dog and weren't able to tell their dog what was coming up next. So these contact issues, like I like how you pointed out that the contact is, a lot of times people are getting the contact. It's legal. It's not that's not the mistake, but it is the problem behind the problem. And proofing is really what people need to do to kind of free themselves to get to better spots on course and to improve their handling just after the events. And then I think it goes even beyond handling. So, there's like a group of people whose dogs maybe shut down in trials, judge visit, sniff, wander off. Like at the last webinar, when we asked people their problems, right? Some of the problems were dogs that, got stressed in the ring or exhibited these other like distraction behaviors in the ring. I'll tell you as an instructor, and when we look at video, a fair chunk of the time, those disconnects happen just after or just at a very difficult obstacle like weave pulls or contacts. So the dog basically gets close to the scary weave pulls and decides that's the moment they need to go visit the ring crew, right? And not everybody recognizes that correlation. They say, my dog wanders off randomly, but it's not necessarily random. It's kind of like a stress reaction to an obstacle that they don't have complete confidence in. So this level of proofing can be great for those dogs too, where again, they aren't missing the contacts. Maybe they're not missing the weave pulls, but it is a higher stress obstacle for the dog.
Yeah, I know that 2 things I'll kind of add on there is, one, I think when we do these challenges, or hopefully that you guys watching this video from home, you get ideas that you would not typically think of, right? And I think it's really good to work with other people and train with other people and get these ideas, whether it's ideas that you see off this video or training buddies, things you wouldn't think to do. So that's always great. Make a little challenge with your training friends. I make the game, anything you can do, I can do better. So each week somebody has to present a challenge, and then everybody in that class has to see if they can do it. And then next week, somebody else brings a challenge, whether it be the umbrella or the reinforcement distractions. But then the second thing is exactly as you pointed out, not all handling mistakes are really handling, and it's identifying the problem. And very, very frequently, somebody will tell me they had a handling problem, but it really started 3 or 4 obstacles earlier at the contact. Again, as Sarah said, we talked about that in video 2. So, all right. So now we are going to take a look at a recent training session with my youngest border collie to see how I broke down the problem in order to have an effective and efficient session. So in this video, guys, we're not just looking at the actual problem, which happens to be doing backside at a distance, but we're evaluating how the problem was addressed. All right. So you'll see here, what I'm looking for is I'm going to send her into the tunnel, and I'm going to stay on the far side of the weave poles and try to get the backside of the black jump. So this actually came from a recent sequence that I was training, and I set it up. So I'm sending her in the tunnel. I'm trying to get the backside. You guys can't hear the volume, but I'm giving her backside verbal, and she failed there. Now, I do it a second time and give her another try, kind of with this idea of first time, shame on the dog, second time, shame on the handler. And what I mean by that, guys, is when my dogs fail the first time and they do not receive the reinforcement, I will often, not always, but I will often give them a second try, thinking, okay, they didn't get the reinforcement. They didn't do what I wanted. Let's see if they can get it a second time. If they can't get it on the second time, shame on the handler, because I am now asking them to do something that they are not understanding. So I'm going to break it down. So here you can see I start to break it down by putting her on a sit stay at the exit of the tunnel. And I'm going to use my dead toy to help lure her towards what I want. But very quickly, and you can kind of see it there, I struggled with the start line. I struggled to get her lined up. She took her 3 times to line up. On that one, she broke on her stay. She finally stays, and then she goes for the toy when she was not cued to go for the toy. All right. So now we're breaking it down and we're seeing other problems. We're seeing start line problems. So you can see her creeping. You can see her going to the weave holes. We are seeing marker confusion, going for the toy when I did not say get it. Some would argue that that's just impulse control. So what we want to think about in this moment is, what was the objective of the session? The objective of the session was to work the backside of the jump. All right. So while it's really important that I have identified more holes, I simply at this point want to add them to the list. All right. I'm going to add to the list that we need to work start lines. We need to work impulse control, but I'm going to adjust the session in order to work the objective, which is the backsides. Okay. So I've put on my list, start lines need work, toy markers need work. That is not the goal of this session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out my barrel. You saw me walk out and put the barrel over by the jump. That is just in case I need it, which I don't end up needing in this session. I bring out the treat and train. What I like about the treat and train is it allows me to reinforce away from me. It still functions as a target in the same way that the toy does, but because it's remote controlled, she can't get access to the reinforcement until I hit the button. I brought out the cot. I brought out the cot for 2 reasons. One, so that I'm not fighting the start line stay, but 2, it allows me to create a little bit more of a clean loop. So she does her behavior, she gets her treat and train treat, she goes back to the cot, and we set up again. All right. And then what you can see here is I'm going to focus on addressing one variable at a time. So the issue that I'm addressing here at the beginning is trying to get further and further and further to the left. So I'm leading out to the same point at every time, which is basically right onto the takeoff side of the jump. So I'm leading out the same amount forward from the cot, but each time I'm taking a little step to the left. And then when she wasn't successful, I stepped back into the right. And the goal here is to get all the way to the left where I was on the other side of the weave poles. So the only variable that I am working is lateral location. Now, once I feel like she has the lateral location to the other side of the weave poles, I'm going to change the variable. So I'm going to keep the lateral distance the same, and I'm going to slowly begin to back up. Right. So I think what a lot of people do when they're training a skill is they try to add on too many variables at once. They try to be lateral and back up, or they try to change their location and add motion. I've just worked on the lateral, and then I'm going to add the distance. So with the weave poles there, I will be kind of again at pole 12. Then I go back to pole 11. Then I go back to pole 10. But I've already worked the ability to expose the entire front side of the jump and have her know to go to the backside. So the cueing here, guys, I'm using an inside arm, shoulders forward, a backside verbal. All right, there you can see I'm at pole 11. See how I'm at that black pole? So I backed up to pole 11. Again, I'm just going to put her on her cot, not worrying about the start line. Now I'm going to go back to pole 10. So you can see I'm at the teal one, and she struggled there. All right, so I'm not going to go back to pole 9 since I haven't successfully completed pole 10. So you can see I help her by stepping across the weave poles, kind of splitting the difference there, standing kind of between pole 10 and 11. All right, until I can work my way back. So I add a little motion. I'm still trying to stop at pole 10. You can see obviously this was hard for her. This is a raw training session. You guys are seeing what was about a 15-minute session. For video's sake, I edited it down to about 8 minutes. So what you guys are seeing is, as you can tell, based on all the changes, is unedited. So once I worked my way back to about pole 10, which is where I anticipated being for the full sequence, I went ahead and backed up her distance. And I said, okay, I'm going to put her further back. All right, which you see what she does then. Oh, weave poles. So now I realize that now we have 2 variables. We have the distance, and now I'm trying to ask her to layer. So I say, okay, before we worry about the layer, let's just make sure that she can do this backside from this far away, that she can be back at the exit of the tunnel. I can stay that far laterally to the left and she can do it. So I eliminate a variable of the layer and I just work on building up that distance. All right. Now, when it comes time to add the weave poles back in, I'm not just going to say, okay, let's add them back in, but I add them in little by little. So right now it's functioning as a set of 6 weave poles. All right. Because I've kind of put the 2 of them together. All right. And I'm going to add them back in kind of a couple poles at a time. So before we add the poles, I add the motion of the tunnel. So we're slowly adding motion back in. We're slowly adding the pieces back in. We've added the tunnel, which also puts adrenaline and excitement on her end, but then I'm now moving. All right, so I have to run up there. I'm still trying, as you guys can see, I'm trying really hard not to cross where the weave poles would be. All right, so here I pull them forward a little bit. So I basically add about 2.5 poles in. So now it's almost like 8 poles. All right, and I'm going to work again, trying not to break the midline of the weaves. So because she did that, I added 2 more poles back in. So we're still not at a full set of 12 yet. You can see they're overlapping there in the middle. You can see the teal and the black kind of overlapping. So sending her in, getting it. And then once she does that, I say, okay, she can do the distance. We can do 10 poles. And then I link the poles together. All right, so now we have the full 12 poles. So we're pretty close. We're getting close to where we started. All right, and you could still use the cot. You could still use a little bit of stationing at the entry of the tunnel. All right, so I remove that. But here we add into the tunnel, kick it back out, and bam, she's got it. Okay, so one of the things that I didn't mention earlier, but you saw it play through on the video, there was a reason I played through, is after the failures, I lowered the bar down to 12. And now I'm going to remove the treat and train and raise the bar back up. So the reason I do this is I'm a big believer in that I do not want to challenge the dog both mentally and physically. So because she was struggling mentally, I lowered it down to 12. All right, now we're going to put it back up and she does hit the bar. Now I reward, because let's talk about what the objective was. The objective of the session was what? Backsides at a distance. Yes, she hit the bar, but she went to the backside. I'm going to go ahead and pay it. And then I'm just going to set the bar back up, do it again. All right. And this time have a little bit more of a party with her. Again, you guys can't hear the volume, but a little bit more tugging. And we have now worked our way back to where we started, which was 12 weave poles with a layer, bar at 20 inches, and getting that backside at a distance. All right. So this video did look at how to improve your backsides. We did not end up using the barrel, but I mentioned using the barrel, talking about lowering down the bar, making sure your verbal is early. The verbal needs to be given back when she's in the tunnel. But I really want the takeaway to be about evaluating your problems and setting up a training session that focuses on that skill. So kind of get rid of the junk that can distract you from addressing the real issue. So are start lines going to be on my list? Absolutely. Is toy control and marker clarity going to be on my list? Absolutely. But in this session, I had to separate those. I had to realize where the problem was occurring. All right, that was step 1, acknowledge that problem, set those aside, and really address the issue at hand to have that really efficient and effective session. So this was, as I said, about a 15-minute, I think it's like 15 minutes, 32 seconds, original training session. And I was able to have real clarity and efficiency by using that cot, using the treat and train, and then I'm going to come back and address those other issues in a different session. So again, it's not just about the backside at a distance, but it's understanding why I'm doing what I'm doing to have that effective session.
So Jen, what about a couple of people had a variation of this? Like 15 minutes is a long time for certain dogs, and I know that I've seen other sessions that you've done. So talk about like how you deal with bridging over multiple days when you're working on something.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was one session for this dog. She's young, she's high drive, and she could handle it. But I recently did a very similar training session with B. And when I put that video out, it was on separate days. I did like 3 or 4 minutes because you can see my outfit changes and the daylight through the windows changes. You just work it through various sessions. So the one thing I will say when I'm kind of picking up from session to session is, let's say I do steps A, B, and C on session 1. When I come back out in session 2, I do not pick up at D, E, and F. What I will do is I'll do a quick review of maybe 1 rep of B, another couple reps of C, and then move on to D, E. So I think one of the things is people want to pick up right where they left off. And I think it's a really good idea to build some success into your sessions, repeat a few steps. All right, get that success and remind the dog what you're working on. So absolutely 15 minutes can be way too long. It's, so many factors going into that age and dog's drive and heat. I know you couldn't do it in your Texas
Right.
heat. So yeah, you're going to work through the same process. The process doesn't change. You're just doing it over different sessions or different days. It doesn't have to be all in one video like I demoed.
And then can you talk about the barrel? Because I think it's really interesting what you do with the barrel, because it builds on like foundation skills that you have.
Yeah, I bring it out when I talked about kind of bringing out all my tools after she has that failure. And I think, Sarah, you can probably fast forward there and see where I bring out all the tools. So when I start bringing out all the tools, I bring the barrel out because she had the failure. And I said, okay, I got to go get everything that I'm going to need. So I go get my treat and train, I go get my barrel, I go get my cot, and I get it all ready. I did not end up needing the barrel in this session, but the reason I got it out and what I do with that is I start all of my backside training on a barrel, right? When they're very young, foundation content before they're a year. I'm not doing jumping at that point, but I'm using the barrel to send them out around. And it's how I introduce backside. So when the time comes to do a backside, the barrel is just such a fundamental part of their understanding that when a dog is struggling, I will often put that back out there to remind them. So you can see it's over by the wing on that teal jump there. I never ended up using it. So I set it aside so it could be close. I never felt like I needed it. But what I would do is I would put it on the back side of that black wing. Aha, there we go.
Yeah.
Sarah's pulling it up for us.
Yeah.
So I
This is
put it on
the
the
other
back
video.
side of that black. Yep. And you can play that video there, Sarah, if you can, if you want to pull it up. And this was a similar concept, similar training session, different dog, different day, where I'm just helping her correlate what I wanted her to do by using some of her foundation tools. So sending her out around the backside there. And the reason I use the barrels, as I mentioned, the primary reason is because she has such a solid foundation with that barrel that she sees it and she goes, I know what this means. Go out around the barrel. So if the barrel's over there on that right wing and she is seeking out the wrapping of the barrel, she's not going to want to take the front side and cut around the left wing. But it also can be used to help create a little bit of shaping on your backsides. So if you have a dog that wants to do a lot of really extreme slicing, where they're hitting the wing, they're hitting the bar, they're not getting the body through it, this is a way to create a more rounded arc so that they go out around the wing and come in through the upright a bit more perpendicular. So there is a little bit of technical answer as to why I use the barrel. But in this situation, it would be bringing her back to those fundamental roots and correlating it to something that she's been doing for months and months and months.
Awesome. All right, so we have given you guys kind of an insider's look at how we approach problems, kind of from 2 perspectives, really, from our instructor perspective, how we address problems with our students and VIP members, but also as trainers ourselves. Like, what do we do with our own dogs when our dogs aren't perfect all the time, right? So when they aren't doing something well, how do we address that? How do we break down the skill? How do we figure out what the real real problem is, and then how do we kind of build it back up. And I hope that this gave you like that that behind the scenes look at some of the kind of the tricks and that we use when we're looking at video and analyzing, and also those training tips that we use.
Yeah, if you're here watching this video, you're hearing the probably having some issues, and you know um, problems, then you're probably going to, and you're going through this process of, well, what do I need to change? Like, how can I get better? And in these 3 videos, hopefully what we've done is put you on that path. From video 1, you have your goals, right? And I think goal setting is something everyone should do, and they hear they should do, but no one actually does. But the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method is like is pretty powerful. I really like it. From video 2, you know your holes. That's holes in your training, right? And from video 3, which is this video, you learn that you usually have to find the problem behind the problem before you can have success. You're gonna have to dig down a little deeper. You may not be having the issue that you think that you are having. Okay, now some of you are thinking, okay, that's great, but I've got a problem, and it wasn't one of the things that one of the 3 things that y'all covered. So for those of you who are here because you are looking for solutions, and you probably follow us a little bit, podcast, social media, the website, and you like not only what we've shown you, but how we've shown it to you, with the Coach's Eye. Actually, Coach's Eye retired now. We use OnForm. So sometimes I will say Coach's Eye, but I mean OnForm. We've retired that app. So OnForm is the app that you want to use for video analysis. That's what the 3 of us are using. But if you want to know what else you can learn from Bad Dog Agility, this is the time of year, every year about the same time, where we open our VIP membership to new members. It's the only time of the year that we do it. So make sure that you are checking that out.
That's right. So all the details of the VIP program will be available on Wednesday. And we close registration. I have to look at my calendar here. I
Because I think we changed the dates a little bit this year.
Yeah, I changed the dates a little bit. I believe it is the 16th. Close registration on the 16th. So you would need to register between Wednesday and the following Monday. But before we open the VIP membership, we do have one more video in this series. And in video 4, we're going to talk to you about like the last piece of the training puzzle. And it is all about you, the human part of the team. And we're going to explore the psychology and the emotions that interfere with you doing well in agility, or hitting the level that you could be hitting. And it's something that we've seen all of our VIP members go through. It's things that we have gone through ourselves in terms of the psychologies and the emotions. But people come to us with problems, and we, help them get better. But there is always an emotional component to that experience. So join us for video 4, because whether you're going to become a VIP member or not, you're going to be inspired and motivated to be a better dog trainer and handler. So in the meantime, we do have one more toy prize giveaway, and we are going to give that to somebody who comments on the replay page for this video, and that's at baddogagility.com/video3. And you just leave your comment at the bottom with kind of your biggest takeaway from this video. So what really spoke to you in this video, and we will choose one of those people at random for another toy prize package. Squiggle it and tug it. And then if you are on the, if you've been getting the workshop PDFs, the worksheet, that's the word. Then we also have a proofing checklist. And if you haven't been getting the worksheets, if you put your email address in at the bottom of the replay page, baddogagility.com/video3, then you will also get the proofing checklist. So I think that is everything. You'll automatically get the proofing checklist if you've gotten the other ones. We're going to pull that toy prize package for the people who shared on Facebook. We're going to do that right after we finish this video. So if you haven't done it yet, you have just a few more seconds to share the video and be entered into that prize. And we will also be going live twice on Wednesday. We're going to go live at noon Central and 7 Central. And that will give more people opportunities to show up live and have all of their questions answered. So pick whichever one's better for your schedule, and you can come to both or just pick one, and we will see you then. And that is Wednesday at noon or at 7 p.m. All right. Do we have any other questions that we need to get through?
I was just looking through to see if I saw any questions.
I can pull up a couple that are related. So,
and the other thing that we will do is try to go through the comments afterwards too. And if we have some videos on our website, then we can direct you to those as well.
So for example, Sharon here, like, we're going to ask you a lot of questions about your dog, right? But first you want to start on the website. So go to baddogagility.com. There's a big old help button, a get help button. If you click on that, you'll see a bunch of topics, and then you can pick contacts and see our content on the teeter. But there are a couple different ways to teach the teeter, and they all work depending on your dog. So you want to pick the method that is going to work for your dog. And we would need to know more about your dog, what motivates them, what issues they're having. But always with the teeter, I kind of want to keep in mind, is it the motion, the bang, the height, right? So for a little dog, it can be any of those 3 that are causing you issues. And that's if you're having issues at all. Over here,
sorry, I was going to do this one real quick. So when you go to baddogagility.com/video3, there are also links for all of the other videos in the series. So if you start there, you'll be able to get to the other 2 videos in the series.
Yeah. Let's see. Jen, Lois wants to know if she can use a very tall orange cone,
like the traffic
instead of
cone.
a barrel.
Yeah.
Typically the reason I use the cone is specific for the diameter to create more of an arc. So the more narrow, I guess, the thinner the cylinder, the more likely the dog is to try to cut in. So a tall orange cone typically is fine. Maybe just push it away from the wing a little bit so that it creates more of that arc. So that's why the barrel instead of the cone. The cone works, just make sure that they really are rounding and creating that nice perpendicular approach.
All right, very good. And 2 people with the same question: how do you fix creeping on contacts? That's actually like free content we have right on our website. So go to baddogagility.com again, click on the get help button at the very top of the page, and scroll over down to contacts, and it explains exactly why your dog creeps and how to fix it. Susan wants to know, was there a giveaway for sharing joined a little bit late?
Yes, so, but you still can. We haven't done it yet.
Yes, there was. And then we will make sure everyone gets a notice of when the VIP opens, and y'all can register and check out the information and see if that's something you guys want to do for the upcoming year.
And then for down here, our current VIPers, you are right. You don't have to re-enroll. You are already members. You're good to go.
Yep.
All right.
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. We will see you on Wednesday.
Have a good one. See ya.